Hey, welcome back to the Never Iron Anything Comics Review podcast, episode 156. This week we've got a new guest, someone new to this podcast, but someone I only really recently met, I'm going to say. Comics writer. He does a few podcasts himself. I've just reread 2 of his comics. Bloody good. It's only Dave Cranna. How you doing? You all right?
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, man. Good. We have just been talking for about half an hour, so I know that feels slightly unusual to...
Yeah, repeat ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, fine, yeah, you asked me that a second ago. It was fine then.
So you've had a busy day, have you? You've been working and all that?
No, well, I was off today. I had a busy weekend. I was it was the weekend away with the in-laws, which is always very good. And yeah, today I've just had the kids chewing my ear off about absolutely everything. So I'm now just managing to sit back, relax, and have a wee blather with you, which I'm really
Good man.
looking forward to.
Good. Well, you've chosen the book to talk about, and I'm glad you chose it because it's a favourite of mine that I haven't really read up until recently. I read it once and absolutely loved it. So did you want to just let everyone know what we're going to be talking about, dude?
Yeah, no bother. So I've chosen Scalped by Jason Aaron and R.M. Guerra. It's the trade, so I think it's issues 1 to 6 on
Yep.
the floppies, if that makes sense.
Yep.
It's an absolutely fantastic book. It's based on an Indian reservation. That's what they describe it as anyway.
Yeah.
The Prairie Rose Indian Reservation in South Dakota. And yeah, it's just grim from start to finish.
Yeah.
And you know, I've read all 10 trades of them. It does not get any. It does not. It doesn't let up. It's just,
It gets worse at some points, doesn't it? Yeah, there's some things that happen to the protagonists, yeah.
Yeah, it drags you down and down. It's
So,
amazing.
but we're going to go back into it, but I think because you're new, I think we should maybe just talk a little bit about your background in comics. So, I know we just had a chat about it, but what were your sort of early loves comic-wise, dude?
Early love. You know, I think looking back, if you trace it right back, I've kind of always read comics. I've never been like a reading a proper novel kind of guy. I've always read comics. My dad used to get me the Sunday Post every week,
Okay.
and I used to Ur Willie and the Bruins
Yeah.
every single week, and I would just kind of it was a double page spread basically, and I just used to sit. I think I actually was possibly reading comics before I could actually read. It
Yeah.
was the images, the illustrations that I really liked. That brought me on to the Beano, as you know, every kid does. I think you know with the Beano, you just get kids getting into trouble, that kind
Yeah.
of thing. I just liked that. And then my Uncle John, possibly, I think for my Christmas, I think I was about 10 years old. Too young for it, to be fair, but I think he got me a Judge Dredd annual.
Okay. Yeah.
And that just
Twisted
opened
your
my
young
eyes,
mind. Yeah.
twisted my young mind. Already slightly twisted, to be fair.
Well, that's part of my theory about one of your comics, which I know we're going to talk to at the end of the episode. But I have a little theory about Dredd there.
Oh, right, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, and maybe as an influence. It's
Yeah, well, I'm sure he is. I mean, 2000 AD. I mean, I read, you know, that got me into Judge Dredd got me into big boy comics, as I like to call them, Marvel,
Yeah.
DC, all that kind of stuff. And I regularly bought 2000 AD whenever I could, just to pour over the pages and just read them. Dredd was like, I mean, when you're 10 years old and you're faced with a guy with a big, massive gun, it was actually the one I remember was Mean Machine.
Oh yeah.
Um, that image, you know, that with the dial in his head, big,
Yeah.
horrible, mutant looking guy with a big metal robotic arm. As a 10-year-old, that is just, who is this?
Yeah, that was cool, isn't it? Yeah. These days, kids they're doing heroin and looking at internet porn, but that back then it was quite shocking for us, wasn't it? You know.
Yeah, yes, it was.
The funny you should mention it though. So rewinding a little bit, but Ur Willie and the Bruins is so individual to Scotland. We don't get it here in England. I suspect there's American listeners who will not have a Scooby Doo about what that is. You know.
Yeah.
But
I was
it's
actually,
so ingrained in your country, isn't it? You know.
yeah, big time. I was really surprised. I mean, I think I found this out possibly years ago. That Ur Willie was, you know, Ur Willie and the Bruins was pretty much just Scotland. And at that point, I realised, like, okay, fair enough, because it is written in Scottish slang.
Yeah.
It is difficult to read, and if I've not read an Orwellian or Bruins for a while, it is quite difficult for me
Yeah.
to pick it back up and read it. So I can see why it was, it's kind of confined to Scotland. But what surprised me was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I was on a podcast, and I was speaking to a guy who's a big comics publisher down south, independent comics publisher down south, and he still didn't know about it.
Oh,
About
wow.
Orwellianism, and I found that really surprising.
Yeah, me too, man. Yeah.
Wait a minute, you don't know this, you know that was really surprising. But yeah,
Because they have
that,
little statues and trails you can walk around the Ur Willie, stuff like that, don't
they're
they?
all over. They're all over the place. Everywhere you go in Scotland, there's a somewhere close. There's an Ur Willie. If you go into a Scottish gift shop, you're going to see the rascally Ur Willie sitting
Yeah,
up
yeah.
bucket. With
Good
his
stuff,
face
man.
in
Really good. Yeah, yeah. So, we've chosen this book. Now, how did you discover Scalped? Was it an impulse buy? Because the way you've told me before is you were kind of into comics and then you left it for a while. When I think,
Yes.
was it Beer and Ladies is normally the story, or?
Beer and ladies, that is 100% it. So, I was reading comics until probably about the age of 16.
Right.
I used to get I don't know what it was. I think it was the Marvel UK Weekly, possibly.
Could be, yeah. Yeah.
It was the X-Men that I was reading at that point in time. So I don't know. I'm not too sure what it was, but I was getting them anyway. And then work just took over because I left school at an early age and just worked full time.
Yeah.
And I was always, it was almost like that, forbidden fruit. It was in the background. Comics. I want to read more comics. And every time I read the newspaper and there'd be an article of some, Superman dying or Batman doing this, I was always, really, really interested in it.
Yeah.
And I started probably late 20s. I thought, right, I'm just going to get back into. I still randomly would pick up a 2000 AD.
Yeah.
In the newsagents. Also difficult to get comics from where I was living or where I live. Not so much now, but definitely back then it was difficult to get them.
Still is, man. I mean, 2000 AD, you're kind of lucky if you're going to see it in a John Menzies or a Double H Smiths, aren't you?
Yeah, you're right.
I suppose the only regular is Viz, really.
Yeah. So basically, I started. I thought, right, okay, I'm going to get back into comics. And at this point in time, online shopping was a thing. And what I found it difficult to pick up a Batman book or a Captain America book or an X-Men book and understand what was going on.
Right.
I was always in the middle of a storyline, and so I started looking out for other things. And I think what actually happened was I seen a floppy for Scalped, and it was a jump on period, and it was a late issue, to be honest. And I thought, right, I'll grab that. And I thought, this is amazing. And because of that, I went back and I found Scalped #1 trade, trade book one or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And so I picked that up, and it was just absolutely, it just blew me away.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, we're talking about the original Vertigo trade release of this. I think. So for those that don't know, it came out in single issues. It ran for it was 60 issues. So that converted into 10, newsprint style trades, as Vertigo will want to do. But since then they've done it in, I'm going to say 5 hardbacks, I think.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me.
In a sort of prestige format. It came out in. It started in issue 1 was January 2007. There you go. For me, I was very late to the party. I think I was listening to maybe a podcast like Around Comics, one of those sort of early podcasts, and they were saying how good it was. And I eventually started picking the trades up as the easy option to get them, and I think I've pretty much tore through them all in a few months. It's not a quick read though, Dave, is it? It's quite a dense read.
There's definitely a lot to it. It's a mature read, is the way I would put it. Aye, it's definitely an adult read. But knowing I was coming on here, I went straight up to my loft and I dished it. I looked at all the trades, and so last week I just poured through the whole lot of it. And see, I think because that's the first time I've actually read them all back to back.
Okay.
Because you know how you pick up a trade or whatever, and it's a couple of months until you get the next one, and a couple of months to the following one or whatever, or even just a month for that matter. And so to read them all back to back was amazing. It was way better.
You're obsessed now, man. You're hypnotised by it. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I feel like we're reading it all again. So I read trade 1 again. So I've read trade 1 about 3 times in the past week.
Well, There's a lot in that one. Well, let's just briefly talk about it. So, like you say, Jason Aaron Wright, R.M. Guerra, artist, Lee Loughridge, colours, superb colours, man, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. Phil Ballsman, letters. Jock did the covers, interestingly. Are you a Jock fan, or...?
Well, yes, it was actually this book that got me into Jock.
Okay.
Yeah, so because obviously, like I say, I'm poring over it, and I see covers by Jock, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, Jock, this guy's got to be Scottish. He's got to be. Sure enough, he is. So that's that kind of piqued my interest for Jock. I mean, do you want to talk about the cover just now? Is that?
Yeah, let's do the cover to the trade. Yeah, it's there's a photorealism to it, isn't there? I'm going to say. So it's a you know, it is the central character. It's Dashel Bad Horse, isn't it? Because he's wearing his nunchucks, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, in a minute, around his neck. Yeah. But he's got sort of the chief's headdress on, which is a hint as to something that happens a few trades down the road, actually, isn't it? You know.
Right, fair enough. I mean, I think it just the cover is by far one of the best covers I've ever seen. It's just got everything. You see this on the stand, you think this is the kind of book I want to read.
Yeah, you know, it's evocative of what's inside, isn't it? Very much so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a confident stance. He's got his chin up. You know, as if to say, he's egging you on almost. He's got blood spattering from his chin down his white vest top. His nunchucks, like you said, around his neck. His big headdress, and then there's a sexy silhouette of a lady underneath him or all over his white t-shirt. Vest top. Sorry. You can see the casino sign at the bottom left-hand side, and then a silhouette of what looks like a cowboy on a horse.
I think that's meant to be Catcher, who's the bloke on the hill. That character. Yeah.
It's definitely Catcher.
I think so. Who's one of my favourite characters, actually. Yeah, okay.
Yes, he is a big part in the whole book.
Yeah, it's an interesting part, actually. So let's get into this, because we've got a lot to talk about. So, like I said, 60 issues. Deals with the occupants of the Oglala Lakota tribe. But also men and women who are... We're going to be careful. We had a quick chat about this, didn't we, Dave, online? We're going to be careful about how we refer to people, and I think it's only fair. From what I can see, I've watched a few documentaries on it. What I'm going to refer to as the Indigenous people or the First Nation people, some of the older people actually don't mind and prefer being called Indians, which is obviously not what they were ever called, but they're kind of used to it. But I think we'll probably stay with Indigenous people. I think it's kind of the one that crops up more. So it involves the people in the Lakota tribe, but also involves people from other tribes. Shunka, for example, is an outsider, isn't he? Although he's an Indigenous person, he's an outsider. And they are part of this fictional town of Prairie Rose, a reservation in South Dakota, which if you read up on the Lakota tribe, South Dakota is where they settled. Black Hills of Dakota and stuff like that. Originally, as legend has it, it started out as a relaunch of the DC Western title Scalp Hunter. But in the discussions that Jason Aaron had with the editors, I think Will Dennis especially at Vertigo, it became something completely different. Have you ever read any Scalp Hunter?
I've not. No, actually, I've never actually heard of it. To be honest.
Yeah, it's not a very well known comic. DC obviously had this little, you know, like Jonah Hex and these sort of characters, a little stable of Western characters. Yeah. It's partly inspired by the story of Leonard Peltier, a man involved in a murder plot in 1977, and he's still serving for it 46 years later. He was an Indigenous activist arrested for the murder of 2 FBI agents in a reservation shootout in 1975.
Wow, that is exactly what it's based on.
Yeah. And I think he's coughed to being involved, but he hasn't said he was responsible. I think he says, look, I was involved in the planning of it, but I didn't pull the trigger, which is interesting. For years it was rumoured to be a pilot or a TV series, and I know the pilot was filmed in 2017, but the channel WGN decided not to go to full series, and I've written in my notes here, cunt, for that idea. There you go.
I'd heard about the pilot episode. Sorry, I had heard about the possibility of TV series, but I didn't realise they had done a pilot and it had been. That is disappointing.
I'd quite like to see that, to be fair.
Yeah,
pardon me. Sorry. I'm not sure if you're a Yellowstone fan. Have you watched that series?
No, no.
Well, the head of the tribe in Yellowstone, I think, was Red Crow. in it, and he's perfect casting, to be fair. So yeah, so there's "Welcome to the World of the Disenchanted." I think is one of the early phrases in it, isn't it? And it tells the story of I'm going to say, I don't know if you agree, Dashiell Bad Horse is the central character. I'm going to say.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. He's the main dude.
Yeah, and I think we can spoil it, Dave. Did you want to just give a little pen picture of him?
Of Dashiell Batos. So he is do we
Well,
spoil
I'm
who he
thinking
is?
it's the end of the first issue, and I think it's fair that we
Right,
spoil
okay.
it. Yeah, I think so.
Fair enough. So
Yeah,
Dashiell Batos has come back to the Reds after 15 years away,
yeah,
and he is basically. I mean, it kicks off, within page one, page two or page three. It starts. There's a battle in a bar basically.
yeah,
Dashiell or Bad Horse, as you can refer to more often, I think, is in a bar and he picks a fight with the dog soldiers who are the kind of the police or the kind of Chief Red Crow's right hand men or henchmen, you like.
yeah,
And he's been away for 15 years. No one knows what he's been away for, and he ends up getting hired by Chief Lincoln Red Crow
yeah.
as an enforcer for him or a police officer for him. And it turns out that Dash is an undercover FBI agent.
I'm going to say one of the best last page cliffhangers of the first issue I've read. So it's only the first issue. There's 60 issues. Don't panic. There's lots more coming. But
It's a lot more.
and I think even if you go to some of the sales places, it reveals this anyway. But like Amazon's, etc. But it ends up with him confronting two FBI agents with a shotgun, and you realizing it's like spoilers again. It's like Reservoir Dogs. You realize he's an undercover cop at that point. He's an undercover cop playing an undercover cop, isn't he? Playing a cop,
Yeah.
essentially.
He's playing himself. He's undercover as himself.
Yeah, that was strange, wasn't it? I thought, he's just revealing himself completely because his mum lives on the res, doesn't she? Yeah.
His mum lives on the res. He's from that res. His mum lives on the res. She was very much connected to Chief Red Crow.
Yeah.
Basically, Agent Nitz, who is Dashiell Bad Horse's boss.
Yeah.
He's got a vendetta against Chief Red Crow.
Yeah.
He is trying to, since 1975, and it's set, what, 2007 is it set?
I think it's current. Yeah, I think it's around that time, isn't it? Yeah.
So he's got Agent Nitz has got a vendetta against Chief Red Crow, and he is trying to nail him or pin the murders of the two FBI agents in 1975, which Gina Bad Horses, Dash's mum, Chief Red Crow, Catcher, and a few other people all had a part in, and that's basically the storyline.
Yeah, and it makes use of those flashbacks, which slowly gets revealed through this issue. You begin to realise. I mean, Nitz is. I think this is a question I posed you, Dave. It's no one in it has much of a redeeming feature. We're reading a book about just bad people. Nobody's likable, put it that way. Everyone is damaged.
Everyone is damaged. That is the best way to put it. Everyone is damaged, and they just get more and more damaged as the series goes on.
Well, there's one point where I'm saying to myself, please don't get on drugs. I know I can see it coming. Please don't get hooked on drugs.
Yes, I mean the message. So the love interest.
Yeah.
Of Dash is Chief Red Crow's daughter.
Yeah, Carol.
And
yeah.
Her storyline, which you find out in a few trades down the line, is heartbreaking, to be honest.
Sexy and tragic. That's how I've summed her up in my notes. Yeah.
Sexy and tragic. Tattoos on her boobies.
Oh God, yeah.
Which is an interesting one, which she's always got them out as well.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. I've got it written down, but there's a quote when her husband turns up and he says, "Can you keep your clit in your pants or something?"
That's an issue one.
Yeah.
That's the first. See, to be honest, see the first issue. Jason Aaron does an absolutely amazing job of getting everything you need to know within those first 20 odd pages,
and laying out the lines of narrative that go through the next 59 issues.
Yeah, exactly. Everything that is in there, everything you need to know is in that first issue.
Yeah.
And not everything you need to know, but everything you want to find out is in that first issue. And then it's basically just a case of how did they get there? How did that happen? How did the FBI agents end up on the res?
Yeah.
Who murdered them? How were they murdered? How did Dash get back to the res? Why did they leave the res in the first place? What's the connection with Gina and Red Crow? the whole thing is just laid out in that first issue. Like, wait, I want to know more
Yeah,
now.
and that Gina Red Crow thing, we won't spoil the Gina thing, but the Gina
Mm.
Red Crow thing is you immediately think, is he
Yeah.
shagging his sister? And I'm not saying Red Crow and Gina, but I'm saying Dash and someone else. You immediately think that, don't you?
Yes, there is a wee bit you think, hold on here. Are they, yeah, are they, is this what's going on? But it turns out that it's not.
Yeah, and
Thankfully.
it really does drag you down. I mean, I think I sent you a few quotes from a documentary that I'd watched. I'll tell everyone what it is because it is really good. It's Peter Santanello, and he's got a YouTube channel, and he basically goes to the poorest places in the world, especially in America, and he goes to the reservation that this is kind of based on in this
Right.
documentary. There's a great quote on a wall which I wrote down and sent it to you. We're not Indians and we're not Native Americans. We're older than both concepts. We're the people. We're the human beings, and that's written on the side of the buildings. But he travels around with this old dude who's kind of had a life, man, and he says he remembers there being machine gun posts put up against the white man coming into the res and stuff. Incredible,
Yeah,
incredible.
I mean,
Yeah.
the whole way through that, it's almost like Jason Aaron lived in a range. I mean, just by
Yes.
the information that he gives you, it's like, was it 3 million? Oh, I can't remember. Something about um, so many people being alcoholics. Most of the people on in South Dakota on the reservation are alcoholics,
Yeah.
and the 98% of them or something are unemployed.
Yeah, so it's
It's something crazy like
it's a
that.
terribly sad place, isn't it?
Oh God,
One
yeah.
of the poorest places. I mean, there's a comment in this about the bar, and he says to Carol, doesn't it? It's not Carol, is it? It's his yeah, Carol. He says to Carol, "How are you drunk? They're not allowed to sell alcohol in the bar because
Yeah,
I think that was a law that came in that you couldn't
yeah, yeah,
actually sell alcohol to people.
yeah. It was like the biggest alcohol consumption in the country in America, and you weren't allowed to drink. Yeah, you couldn't sell it over the bar. I don't know. Very strange.
Yeah,
Very unusual. I'm not. It does. It just sounds like a horrible, horrible place to live,
yeah,
and anyone living there in this book. I don't know what the office is like in real life, but yeah, it just sounds like a terrible place to go.
yeah. And stuck in the middle of this is as part of that they show that terrible life is the building of the casino, which is central to Red Crow's plans to take the money for himself, and in a way also you kind of think bring the tribe up a bit with him. He's terror. He's utterly corrupt, but
Oh
there's
yeah.
a little bit in him you think, yeah, he's about the tribe sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, well, his whole storyline starts off where he's fighting for the tribe. He's fighting for tribes to be recognised. I think is
Yeah,
what it kind of is. He's fighting for the indigenous people. To they were here first. Kind of. He mentioned something about the European white man
yeah,
um, being a bunch of liars or something, or not sticking together or something. Whereas we have stuck together in this court case kind of thing. Yeah, so his early days, probably late 20s, early 30s, he's fighting for his people, his tribe, and try to bring them up. But I guess he just gets more and more corrupted as the
yeah.
years.
There's something of the kingpin, isn't there, about him, the
Yeah,
character.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
one of my favourite lines is Bad Horse goes to confront him, doesn't he? And he beats up the men on the bodyguards on the door and goes into the town council meeting, puts a gun at the back of Red Crow's head and says, "That's not my
Aye.
dick in the back of your head." And Red Crow, cool as a cucumber, goes, "Well, that's a relief." I think it's like the best line ever.
Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So good. Like straight off the tongue, nice and calm. All that. That's the
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean,
But
speaking, you touched on it a minute ago, man, but how do you feel? I don't know what you think about this, but what do you think about it being a story about the Lakota, but written by a man who isn't, correct, and an artist who isn't?
well, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, the thing is, we're obviously complete outsiders to the Lakota tribe, so I don't know
Yeah,
if we can really comment on it. I guess it's up to the Lakota tribe to comment on it and be like, um, yeah, he's not part of this tribe. Can he really paint us in this way? I guess it's really up to them to say
Yeah.
that.
I think I'm past that, man. I think if you put the work in, and you make it good,
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
okay
for
with it.
me,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I enjoyed the read. It's not offended me in any way.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's offended other people, I'm not too sure. So,
It's encouraged me to learn about them.
yeah,
You know,
100%. Yeah, yeah.
we've talked about documentaries on YouTube and stuff like that. And I went back. I mean, I was a big fan of a book my father made me read as a kid. I've mentioned it on the ACP actually. Bury My Heart and Wounded Knee, and I reread big chunks of it this week that are about the Lakota and their history. So it has encouraged me to go back and learn about these people. They're such a rich and interesting history to them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Actually, and I don't think I've mentioned this, but I read, I never read it all right enough. Is it East to West?
Oh yeah, yeah, which is
Is that
kind
what
of
it's called?
sci-fi western, isn't it? Yeah.
Sci-fi Western, yeah, and it's so it's set whatever sci-fi Western, and I think it's the Seven Nations of America,
Ah,
and
okay.
the British is one nation. I think China is another nation. I think Americans or Texas is another nation, and there's an Indian, an indigenous people
Yeah.
nation. And I always, when I read that, I thought, God, I wonder what that would have been. What would the world have been like?
Well, that relates to the seven tribes that the Oglala Lakota were part of, isn't it? Maybe I think that's
Possibly.
where that's coming from. Yeah, yeah. Who
Right.
would
Is
meet
it?
once a year? Yeah.
Yeah. What would that world have been like if Europeans didn't go in and fucking slaughter them all? It would be something like
Yeah,
that.
man. I know. The Now one of the questions I posed to you when we talked about this online is: has this influenced the way that you write at all?
I would, yeah, I'm going to have to say, yeah. I think
Yeah.
I would say so, yeah. There's nothing I really write that's positive. It's all pretty grim. I don't
Yeah.
know what that says about me, but I definitely think it has influenced me, my writing for sure. It's just because it's it's grimy. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
It's a grimy, dark um, book that is just almost real life. The world isn't rosy. I wish
Yeah.
it was, but it's just not. And when you read something that's colourful and fruity, and sure, it's got its place. Um, I just don't believe it.
Yeah.
I'm too
There's an
cynical for
honesty
that.
to this. I think. You know.
Exactly. I'm too cynical to have flowers and rainbows. Stuff
Yeah. Me too,
there.
man. Yeah.
Blood and guts.
I think people live in, especially these days, post COVID, when no one leaves their house and works from home and stuff, people live in their little lovely world, don't they? And they don't see the reality of what's going on in some of the darker
Yeah,
corners. And I think sometimes people do need to realise that.
they definitely do. I mean, yeah, like you exactly said, everyone lives in a wee bubble,
Yeah,
and there's so much bad stuff going on out there that I think people need to open their eyes a little bit and actually, yeah, look and see it because it is there. And if folk know that it's there, then possibly they would maybe try and help the situation a little bit more.
yeah.
Rather than just kind of hiding away from it and ignorance is bliss and all it's not really there, just completely ignore it.
Yeah, well, it was a
Um,
massive eye opener for me learning about this tribe,
yeah,
seeing how
yeah,
they lived and how they were treated and, how their rules and laws are different from, just outside the border.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Aye, totally. No, it's an interesting look into yeah, their lifestyle and where they've come from, and 'cause I'm pretty sure later on in the trade, they're almost they settle there. I wouldn't say that they choose to settle there. They're
yeah,
almost pushed there
yeah,
by Europeans or Americans, if you like, and so they've got no choice, and they're pushed to the kind of the rubbish part of the states, really.
yeah,
And then rather than lying down, they have chosen to kind of stand as tall as they possibly can, and that's the strong
yeah.
guys that you have within this book.
Yeah, I think you're right, man. I mean, the sort of very quick pen picture of their history is that they were granted the Black Hills of Dakota as their hunting ground, and then the white man discovered that there was gold there, and a series of events occurred, in all different places in all different ways that resulted in the Little Bighorn, which was a mighty triumph for Lakotas and other tribes. And then the revenge was taken back on them by the 7th Cavalry at Wounded Knee, which is where the name Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee comes from. Yeah, where they were decimated.
Mm.
Yeah, they really were. And like you say, they were pushed into these reservations. I mean, even the sheriffs from outside can't chase criminals over the border of the reservation. It has to be the reservation police and stuff like that. It's this really interesting set of laws and rules and stuff that they have to live by. Incredibly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a crazy state of affairs for them. But it's yeah, I, I, if yeah, yeah, it's quite difficult to get your head around it actually.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
It's somewhere I would like to go and visit. However, I'm
yeah.
pretty scared to ask any questions.
It's like that time Johnny took me around a certain area of Glasgow.
There's a few places like that for sure.
But I think we kind of love the underdog, don't we, as well, in the
Yeah,
story?
of course. Yeah.
And, you know, to a kid who grew up on John Wayne movies, they're the ultimate underdog, aren't they? Really?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. The whole Res basically is an underdog. You know, what's that line in Reservoir Dogs? I've got bigger teeth than you, and that's kind of the way it is. It's a
Yeah.
dog eat dog world, and I've got
Oh,
bigger
it's
teeth.
so dog eat dog. It's so violent. So, life is cheap. It
Yeah,
really is, isn't it?
yeah. Life is cheap. I mean, there's even a part later on where Red Crow has raised all this money for this casino through dodgy means and loans from other dodgy gangsters, if you like.
Yeah.
And at one point, they come to visit him, and they're like, "Look, do you realise that this person is dealing coke on the side, and this person's dealing meth on the side, and this person's doing all this?" And the guy disappears, and Red Crow's talking to his own uh, his right hand man. He's like, "Of course I know that." And he
Yeah.
names a name. He's doing this. He's doing this because his kids is needing extra needs or whatever. So he knows it's all happening.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a dog eat dog world, and everyone's doing kind of their own thing, and the chief knows this, and that's just the way the res is.
Yeah.
Is everyone is skimming off the top basically,
Yeah, it really is. Yeah.
or trying to.
Which leads me a little bit into my theory, which I ran very briefly past you, that this is Hamlet.
Mm.
Now, the prince, let's call him the Prince of Denmark, is Bad Horse. Red Crow is the king. His mother is a significant part who perhaps has had affairs with two different men. Let's not ruin who's the father. The girl is insane, like Ophelia. The conciliator Polonius, you've got as catcher, I would say. Bad Horse, like the Prince of Denmark, has returned from being away, and he's there to take the crown almost. But he himself has his insanity issues. I think there's direct lines with it. I'd be interested to ask. I don't know if he's ever been asked this, but I'd be interested to ask if. It's a very well used kind of storyline, but I think there's definite ways to look at it like that.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it's a parallel for sure. I've never read Hamlet. I did do a quick Google search and read a wee synopsis
Right.
of Hamlet, and basically the way I seen it was what did you say, the Prince of Denmark? Is
Yeah,
that?
that's who Hamlet is. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So Hamlet is looking for redemption. Would that
Yes.
be right? And I'm like, well,
In a way.
if Dash is looking for redemption, he's going about it one hell of a the
Yeah,
wrong way.
but it's almost like, well, there is. Hamlet is suicidal in a way,
Yeah.
and Dash is the same, isn't he? He's just
Oh,
puts
yeah.
himself at such risk.
Yeah.
How he doesn't die. Some bloke has literally got a knife to his throat, and he pulls a gun out and holds it backwards and points it at the bloke's head.
I know, it's crazy. There's a part. I think it's the first trade actually,
Yeah,
where his mum's looking for him.
that's it. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And so she keeps asking, and she keeps just missing him. And one guy says, "I don't know where he is, but wherever he is, some guy's fixing for a kicking
yeah,
or whatever." So basically, wherever Dash goes, he's beating someone up.
yeah,
He's just constantly fighting with people. He's like a pit bull. He's just like fucking, just
yeah,
hell for leather from start to finish. The opening 2 or 3 pages, that's what happens. He takes on a whole gang of a whole gang of people. It's like
yeah.
there's
To
12
prove
or
his
whatever in the
prove his
park.
worth, to get
Yeah,
that job, doesn't he? He's like,
yeah,
he's on a mission to get in there with Red Crow, isn't he? But he's doing it by just fucking killing people left, right, and centre. Yeah.
just punching lumps at the lot of them.
It's weird, isn't it? Because I still like him. I still worry about him.
Yeah. He's I think because he's the protagonist and you kind of want him to do well. But do you like him? you like the character or do you like him? I mean, yeah, you can tell that he's damaged. And so
Yeah.
someone who is damaged, there's always a root to things, you know? So it's like, well, why is he doing this? Why is he like this way? He's obviously had something happen to him, you
He's
know?
been away in the war, isn't he? He's fought in the war, I think. He's
Yeah,
been
yeah. So
in the army.
yeah, but
Yeah.
it's even before that. I mean, the picture you shared, actually, the page you shared, sorry, of
Oh God, yeah, yeah. There's
God,
the opening page to it's issue 2.
yes, is and it's yeah, I could just say, can't I?
Yeah,
It's a lovely page. So it's a guy shot basically up against. I'm trying to get the page out just now. Up
yeah,
against a barn, what it looks like, and it's snowing, and he must be. Well, he looks about what 4, 5, 6,
yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
He's young, and his mum's like, look at him, Dash. That I want you to keep looking at him, and Dash is like, this innocent little face. I don't want to look at him. He's like, no, no, you look at this dead person. This person's been shot in the
yeah.
head. And every time you pick up a gun, you remember that this is what.
That's hard love, isn't it?
It's fucking hell. I mean, I've got a 4-year-old. There's no way I could not show him that at all. I'd even like to show him a squashed bug in the floor,
I know. Yeah.
let alone a man being.
I don't let him
murdered.
watch EastEnders. Never mind, fucking.
Aye,
Yeah,
so he's obviously had a horrible upbringing, so you feel sorry for him because of that.
yeah.
Yeah, so but he's not a likable character because the things he does. He's just
Yeah.
violent.
Outside of him, have you got any favourite characters in this?
Catcher.
Catcher's me as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
So those who don't know, Catcher is this. He was a member. Were they called the Dog Soldiers? I can't remember the name of the little.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that wee band of the freedom fighters. Would you call them that?
Yeah, extremists, I suppose, terrorists, some might
Extremists,
say, but yeah, yeah, yeah. He was part of them, and he was part of that central conspiracy, which is the central secret of it all. But he's become like a loner. He lives out in the hills. He drinks a lot and rides a horseback, but he's always there watching, isn't he?
He's always round about with he speaks to thunder gods as well. So
Yeah,
there's a lot of traditional native indigenous people. I forgot what it's
yeah.
called.
Indigenous people's fine. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Indigenous people, yeah. So he speaks a lot of that. A lot of you've seen the thunder animals. He speaks to thunderstorms and all that kind of stuff. And he brings to the kind of forefront the mythological
yeah,
aspect of it. He's a great character. He's a very interesting character.
yeah.
He's
He
also
looks great as well, and that horse is straight out of a Leone movie, isn't he?
yeah, it's old raggedy horse.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, you beat me to it. He looks amazing.
yeah,
He has a proper Western imagery basically.
yeah. My other favourite is, and we don't see much of him in Volume 1, although he does appear, is Shunker,
Right.
who's the bodyguard of Red Crow.
Yeah.
Who, if there was ever a character that's got an arc of development, he's it, and I remember
time.
when that reveal happens, you go, oh,
Yeah.
you think
You're
you
like,
didn't
"Oh,
expect
right."
that. Yeah,
No, I did not expect that. It makes sense.
yeah,
It's like, all right, okay. Now we see what's going on. Yeah, they're really, really good. Yeah, amazing. I
yeah,
completely forgot about that actually until the second read. I was like, Then
yeah.
I came flooding back, and I was like, right, okay.
And he's
Hence,
kind of the only person in it who could possibly beat Dash in a fight, isn't he? He's sort of,
aye. They two are they two kind of square off. I don't think they ever actually fight though, do they? Do they?
I can't
Not
remember.
too
I have to have
sure.
I haven't got that far in my reread. Yeah.
They might come to small fisticuffs, but nothing major. I can't remember off the top of my head now.
But they line that up, don't they, so early. He puts that in your brain so early. Is
Well,
you've
Shunker's
got
got him.
yeah,
Shunker's got him figured.
yeah, because he's throwing knives. In that first scene you see him, he's throwing knives, isn't he?
That's right. Yeah.
And you think, oh, I know what Aaron's saying there. Aaron's saying, this is the dude who's up against Dash. He's the
Yeah.
competition.
If you look at the statue he's throwing knives at, it's the statue has got the one eye looks like it's been hit repeatedly
That's it.
by a
Yeah,
knife. Everything else it looks normal, but he's obviously got such a good aim. It's always, I think it's the left eye. He's just always flinging this knife at
Yeah.
this one eye. So yeah, he sets it up as if to say this guy could beat Dash.
yeah. Right. Good stuff, man. Let's talk a little bit about Guerra, because I think he is a real hit. We've previously on the podcast spoken about about Jason Aaron, although, he's still a mighty power at Marvel and, Image as well at the moment. But let's talk a little bit about Aram Guerra. So I read a quote by Aram Guerra in an interview this week that I really loved. He said, "Our job is not to illustrate, but to express. Each drawing is a sentiment. The style doesn't matter. It's about expression and what you feel about it." I love that quote, man. I've always said that there's a lot to be said for emotion on a page, and I think he really nails it there. He said his influences include Noel Sickles, Jack Davis, Milton Caniff, Wally Wood, Frank Robbins, Jean Girard, aka Mobius, and Alex Toth. Aram Guerra, aka his real name is Rajko Milosevic, or he also draws under the name Guerra. He's a Serbian, aka I think originally from Yugoslavia. He lived in Belgrade. He now lives in Barcelona. Started work mostly in the Western genre in Serbia on Elmer Jones and the Texas Rangers books. He's probably more active in BD. He's worked quite a lot with Glen A. As a young man, he toured around Europe playing what he describes as gypsies playing music. He claims he's got a sense of what real poverty is and used it in this work because he'd experienced the life of and this is a word he uses, gypsies. And he translated a lot of that into the pages of this book, which is interesting. I don't think he's ever been to a reservation. I know, film and still imagery is now easily available, isn't it? But he sort of channeled that mood and that vibe, I think, into it. He says it wasn't until issue 25 of Scalped that he understood how to use light and dark in the story. I didn't notice that, did you? Or?
Definitely not. I think it's light and dark the whole way through.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
Heavy use of shadow in a lot of it, Dave, isn't there, as well,
Yeah, there is a heavy use of shadow. That work is phenomenal. It's
Yeah.
so well detailed, it's so lifelike. It's not, it's not cartoony, but it just looks real. Every character is recognisable. When a character was on the page, who that guy is.
Yeah.
They're all amazing. I think the details are amazing. I'm not too sure what he means about the light and dark. But...
Yeah, no, maybe that's just how he feels about it. But yeah, there's like you say, there's the pages that are some of the favourites of mine, which are out in the snow.
Mm.
But you've also got the darkness of the bars and stuff like that. Mm. Yeah. I'm going to say, I think I messaged you about this. I'm going to say I see some Chaikin in his work. I think in the way he draws women. There's a moment where Carol sat on the jukebox waiting to have sex, as all she ever does. And to me, that looked like a Chaikin. Chaikin draws gorgeous women. It looked a bit like a Chaikin to me,
Right, okay, fair enough. I'm going to have to agree with you on that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, Carol the whole way through it, she's got this. I mean, she's stunning.
Yeah.
But you also know that she's fucked up, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, she's where some people eat their emotions. She's sort of shagging her emotions away, isn't she? I think. Yeah,
she's shagging it and wearing it, I would say, as well.
Yeah, and sticking it up her nose from the look of things. Yeah.
Probably there's a lot more than just fucking that drug going on.
Yeah.
But there's she's the kind of lassie or girl you would see in the bar and think, oh God, you are trouble.
Yeah, keep away.
Keep away from her. It's like if I go home with her, I might not make it out.
Yeah, Christ. Yeah, she's near. Yeah. The Armgo has also worked on Django Unchained with Jason Latour, who's obviously Aaron's buddy. He's busy. He often works on animation and storyboards, and is also, it says in his bio, a capable blues musician. There you go. That's interesting. Any particular pages that stood out for you, dude?
Yes, there are a few.
Yeah.
Obviously, the cover is amazing by Jock. So I picked out 2 pages.
Okay.
One page in particular is the one. I'll do the first page first. So the first page is just after Indian Country, Chapter 3, and it's the first page.
Okay.
And it's where Bad Horse and Officer Falls Down are about to jump into the barn.
Another one.
Check into the barn. Yep. And so the reason I like that image is because it looks Western.
It does, doesn't it? They've both got sort of cowboy hats on, haven't they?
They've got cowboy hats on. They're holding rifles or shotguns, whatever it is. They're standing next to a barn door or a stable door. And it just looks, they've got the grass and everything there. It just looks like something from a western. So for that reason, I quite like that. However, the one I've chosen.
Can I say with that one, and you're right when you say it. I completely agree when you say it's a western, but it's also kind of to me like an old school western. It's not like a spaghetti western or anything sort of we consider cool now, but it's like El Dorado or something like that. You know, it's got that old school John Ford western feel about it. That page to me, yeah, lovely.
Yeah. No, it's a lovely page, but it's not the page I've chosen. The page I've chosen is number 78. And
Okay.
it is the end of, oh God, is it chapter 4 possibly? In fact, is it maybe the same chapter actually?
Okay.
I think it might be the same chapter. And so what it is it's 2 panels. The top panel is like a quarter of the page, and it's Catcher. And it's he is standing. You see his horse behind him, so he's clearly standing on a hill. So Catcher is at the front,
Right.
the horse is at the back, and Catcher's he's looking down. He's actually looking down, I think, at the FBI agents.
Yep.
And he is holding his rifle in the kind of small of his arm, if you like. Proper Western-looking imagery. The old shaggy horse behind him, or the beaten-up horse behind him, and the pylons going over the back of him. So you've got this kind of old-looking image of a proper Western with pylons as well, and then the other image, the mate of it, was most of the page. He's looking over he's up on top of the mountains. You can see kind of cars driving by, and he's just looking down at the whole reservation, basically. But it's more what he says. It's like, looks like I was right, Festus. He's talking to his horse. Looks like I was right, Festus. Reckon I ain't as dumb as you think I am. Them thunder beans ain't never lied to me yet. No siree, Bob. A shitstorm. That's what the hell I'm looking at. Goddamn shitstorm.
Yeah.
That line is just like,
what a line. Yeah, to finish an issue as well.
Because it is a shitstorm.
Yeah.
The whole thing, the whole book.
It's just I think it's an exercise in things just getting fucking worse, man.
Yeah,
you know?
Definitely.
And the way he's drawn in that top left of the page, he looks so gaunt. He could almost be a dead man, couldn't he? You know?
Oh yeah. I mean, he just looks terrible. He looks like someone. He just looks. Yeah, he could be a ghost. At this point, I don't know if you've seen him interacting with anyone. Actually, you've seen him.
You do wonder about that, don't you? You wonder whether he's just a spirit, don't you?
Yeah, because he's always talking about thunder beings. He's always in the background. You think, is this guy real, or who is this? Who is this guy? What's going on with him?
Yeah.
And like you say, it's just how he describes exactly what's going on. It's a goddamn shitstorm.
Yeah. And the colours in this, man. Let's mention Lee Loughridge, because I think he definitely needs to mention his colour work really supports Guerra's work in this. It's just beautiful. I actually genuinely think I've mentioned him a couple of times on the ACP, just coincidentally recently. I think he's one of my favourite colourists. He brings that collaborative gold for me. Some other sort of standout work of his has been Stumptown. He worked on Heavy Liquid with Paul Pope. He did some Hellblazer in the original run. He did some lovely work in Deadly Class, if you've read that, the Image series. And then there's a series, I don't ever hear anyone talking about this series, but it's Dark Horse, and it kind of runs a bit parallel to this kind of book. It's like this crossed with Sons of Anarchy, maybe, called Briggsland. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Well, not.
Really good. Yeah, nobody ever seems to talk about it. I actually really recommend it. It's a very short Vertigo run, and then they do like a little spin-off 6-issue series. But yeah, he coloured that as well. Yeah, real class. I think if the page I was going to pick was page 23, and which is the one I talked about where he's got a knife to it. I think he's got a knife to his throat, and he pulls a gun out and points it at the back of this dude. Yeah, but.
What was that guy called again? He's called.
Oh, is it Diesel?
Diesel, that's it.
Yeah.
He's the guy who's not an Indian, but plays an Indian. In their words, that's what they say.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
He's 1/16th, I think he says. 1/16th Lakota or something. Lakota.
Yeah, it's like Steven Seagal says that. I don't know whether I believe him either. But but the colour on this page I found actually sort of works incredibly well. But it's almost like counterintuitive. It's almost like in green tones, green and light, greeny blue tones. It's a strange one. But you've got Guerra playing the top half of the page in close-ups. There's a close-up of the hand, there's a close-up of the face, close-up of Diesel's eyes, and then he pulls out into what these days a lot of people would do as a double page spread to draw like 20 people from just an incredible angle. You know, he's like looking down from 10 feet tall down on a crowd of people, all who are doing their own thing, all who are perfectly rendered and so believable, aiming guns at people in this sort of standoff. It's just really well done.
They're all aiming guns at different people. They're all aiming guns at each other.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Some are aiming at Dash, some are aiming at, there's a guy where, the two guys in the forefront, they're aiming not at Dash or Diesel, they're aiming at the other crowd.
Yeah.
The other guy's aiming at this guy. It's just all over the place.
It's like a sort of Hong Kong movie standoff, isn't it, in a way? Yeah. And what Larry's does is there's one single click of a gun where he's pulling the hammer back, and he does it in red, which it just wouldn't occur to me to have that in red. I don't know why, but it does work. It's that dangerous click of a gun.
If this was to bang, it's all going to kick off, basically.
Yeah, so good. I mean, the other page I was going to choose was the one we've already talked about, which is that the credit page for issue 2, where his mum's saying, "No, you look at that dead man." Yeah, she's doing that with him.
It's a lovely page. The snow and everything is just fantastic on that page.
Yeah, the use of red against a white and blue snowfield is just beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So you've roared through and read the whole thing, have you?
Yes, I have. The last week or the week before, possibly. I'm pretty sure I've done it in a week.
Wow.
I think I sat up until about 3 in the morning. I think I read the last 3 trades back to back. I was like, I can't put this down. I know what's happening. I need to finish it. I need to know. I need to fill in the blanks, because it had been that long since I had read it. I was just like, I need to finish it.
It's a book we don't need anything more of. I think it's in and out. 1 to 60. We don't need anything else.
Yeah. You don't want you don't want what's that? What Chief Red Crow done, in between.
Yeah.
What you know of
Shunker's mission or something like that.
Yeah, you don't need any side stories.
Carol robbing a bank. We don't need any of that bollocks. Yeah, you're right. There's also a little intermission in it, which I found really interesting, which is the story about the couple who live in the house who are having to go to a food bank, even though it shames the husband, and a plane crashes. Do you remember that one?
Yes. That was an amazing wee story.
Yeah.
That whole trade, I think, is short stories. I think that's the revelation of Shunka is in that trade. I'm sure.
I think you're right. Yeah.
That was such an interesting story. Such a shame.
Yeah. Beautifully told.
Yeah, beautifully told. Yeah, that was really good. Yeah.
And I don't think Aaron's been. I think this is amazing. I haven't seen him better. I don't know, it's people's tastes come and go, but I read a lot of what he does. I read the one we've been quite a bit contrary on the Punisher story he's just done. I didn't enjoy certainly the last couple of years of his Avengers run, but this stuff for me is exactly what he should be doing.
You know what? I knew this question was going to come up, and I was like, I don't think I've read anything else Jason Aaron has done.
Okay.
So Googled Jason Aaron, what he's worked on, and when I looked at everything else, I was like, I don't really want to read that. The reason I've not read any of it, I don't want to read it. I don't want to read, I think
Avengers versus X-Men or something. Yeah.
Well, that's the only one I've read, is Avengers versus X-Men. That's the only one, and I don't think he wrote all of that. I think he was just part of it, because there was a whole list of writers credited in that.
Yeah.
What I can see. So nothing else really stood out that I wanted to read, and so I think that's why I've never read anything else that he's done.
Yeah, I mean, this is so head and shoulders above most other books, to me.
Yeah, because everything else he's done is X-Men. You see Avengers? Did they do Thor for a while?
Yes, big time. Yeah, I mean the last Thor movie is based very much on a load of stuff he did.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So it just didn't. I was just like, I think. I've been done with the big two for a long time.
Okay. Yeah.
And so and I think Scalped was one of the reasons why. I'm just like I'm not really interested in jumping into this kind of stuff. I've had enough superheroes. Even the movies at the moment, I'm just done with the movies as well. The TV.
Me too, man. Yeah, me too.
Oh God, just too much. So when I googled to see what else he had written, I then quickly realised that's why I've not read anything else he's done.
Yeah, I think you're right with the movies. I think I wrote on the. I don't know. I don't think everyone quite agreed with this, but I wrote in the Slack, didn't I? I just saw the new Flash movie. What the fuck was all that about? Yeah,
I've still not seen it.
yeah. Don't worry. Yeah,
Yeah,
leave it.
I'll wait until it's
It's
good.
2.5 hours of my life I wasted, but yeah,
Yeah.
good. Yeah, that. Thanks, man. I really took a dive into this stuff. Reading books and watching documentaries, and it's a beautiful and interesting area that we should know more about. I mean, we know everything about fucking America, don't we? We know fuck all about the people who actually own the country. You know.
You're totally right. Yeah, they're an interesting people. That's for sure. And the world would have been a different place if there was more of them.
And I think if America took more notice of living the way that they lived, rather than just forcing European values onto the country, I think,
we would not be in the mess the world was in.
I think you're right, man. Yeah.
100%.
Well, let's change tack a little bit and talk a bit about you, because it's the first time we've had you on. So there's a couple of things I want to talk about you. I'm a lover of your book Glass City. I think it's one of the best written small press books out there, man. I will be honest with you. I think, and I've just reread issue 1. We got on a bit early, so I was in the middle of my reread of issue 2, so I haven't quite reread that one. But first one, I love the switch and bait you do in the first 20 pages of that book, man.
Yeah, I always tell people it's like when they back with a sales pitch, it kicks off on page 13. It's like it's completely different. I feel like when folk pick it up, they're like, "What the fuck is this shit?" And it's like, no, just get to page 13 and you'll see what's going on.
Because you say sort of, this is about the massive. It's kind of like a massive city in Scotland. It's both Edinburgh and Glasgow and everything between, Easter House and everything, isn't it? Joined into one massive city, and it opens in Japan. I'm thinking, if I was a newcomer to it, I'd be thinking, have they put the wrong comic on Comixology or something? It's a bit like that, isn't it?
I think when I started writing this, I think what I'd actually done was I created a whole world, but I shortened it down to those kind of 13 pages of what you've got. So I think the original part was, like 30 odd pages of just world building. And I'm like, this is just too much. So I thought, let's just concentrate in one area. And that's what I've done. I'd also just come back from Japan at the time.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
I think that had a bit of an influence on it.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. So did you want to give people just an overview of what it's about, dude? And I've seen you do this on a stage, I'd like to point out.
Okay, so I'll just do a sales pitch if that's all right.
Yeah.
So Glass City is basically it's 100 years in the future. Glasgow and Edinburgh, or Glasgow and Dunedinburgh is what they are in that world.
Right.
Are one big mega city, and they're called Glassborough. And the Glasgow side, or the Glasgow side, is nicknamed the Glass City by the locals because it's violent. So Glass City is supposed to represent as if you're getting glassed at a pub. Yeah, pretty violent. And Detective Gabriel Gatti is mourning the loss of his missing kid 5 years on, and he stumbles on a case that directly mirrors his own, and he delves deeper into an already dark and sinister side.
Cool. And art by Roman, how do you pronounce it? Gubsky?
Well, I think it's Gubsky. Yeah,
Gubsky.
Roman Gubsky. Yeah,
cool.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Roman, I send off, big Facebook messages to Roman, like 20 odd, 30 odd lines, and I get like a thumbs up. And it's been like that for years. That's it. And I'm like, Roman, I tried to video call him one day, and he's just like, no. I'm like, okay. No.
Have you ever met him in person?
I've never met him in person.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
I've never actually I've never heard his voice. I've tried to phone him lots of times. He's just not into it. And it's like, you know what? When the messenger pings and I get a page from him, I'm just like, fucking hell.
Yeah, I love all that, man. Yeah.
He doesn't want to talk to me. I don't need to talk to him because this page is nothing. And he comes up with the goods every time.
Good man. Yeah. Now I've got a theory about this. Now I'm going to describe it as part Glasgow, haven't been there, part mega city and part train spotting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would agree.
Oh, that's good. There you
go. Yeah. I think you're kind of spot on. Definitely, Judge Dredd is a huge influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. and me, and yeah, train spotting is another huge influence.
Because there's a few bars and horrible people in bars and all that sort of thing, isn't there? You know.
Yeah. It's the reason I changed it from. So, have you ever been to Scotland? The Scottish government have spent millions of pounds in renaming all the English places to Gaelic places. So
Oh
you
right,
now have
okay.
Glasgow, and then underneath it you have Glasgow, which is spelled Glaschu,
Oh,
and that's the
okay.
Gaelic version.
Right.
So what I've done is I've taken all the Gaelic versions, like Japan, for example. So I've called Japan Nippon,
Right.
which is the what Japanese people refer to Japan. They call it Nippon.
Yeah.
So I've kind of taken all that. Um, I've used all the kind of original, if you like, places to kind of create my own wee world. I've kind of forgot where I was going with this here.
That's fine, man. That's good. The other thing I was going to compare it to is taking it back slightly is comparing it to Scalped because everyone's a flawed person in this, aren't they?
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I try to create a character or a backstory of a character that is just, yeah, damaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, everyone is. There's not. It's not a very nice place. That's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, the world has moved on to such a place where no one gives two shits about anyone anymore. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
he walks into a bar and he asks for a pod for one, please, or an isolation pod. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And basically, what that is a place he can sit enclosed by himself and drink alone and
Yeah.
not be disturbed. He can watch people, but not engage in anyone.
Yeah.
And Facebook, not so long ago, an advert comes up for a pod that you can buy for your bar or for your office. You can now get these things.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
so
we've
that's
got
just
them at the university. I refer to them as screaming pods. We can go and
yeah.
scream in them. Yeah.
Well, there you go. So yeah, I don't think it's long until bars have the same, and you can just go into this wee room and just sit and
Which is a bit like, do you remember in Judge Dredd where it's illegal to smoke unless you go into like, they look like big eggs in the high street, don't they?
Mm.
It's a bit like that, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exactly like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Yeah, good. So, volumes 1 and 2 are out. You've also done a kind of Ashcan Zero issue, haven't you, as well?
Yeah, so that's Tales from the City. So the whole idea is a Glass City. What the idea what to do is have lots of stories from Glass City, but none of
Yeah.
them are tied to each other. There'll be wee nods to each other, but they're not really. It's just a big city of madness, really. And so there's lots of. I mean, there's lots of characters to explore that just do crazy things. So that's the whole. So Tales from the City is a small anthology, 4 stories.
Yeah.
Um, and like I say, they're not connected to the main story of a missing girl. They're not connected to that. There is a wee nod to some of it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm hoping I'll do. I've got one more volume to complete for the story of a missing girl, and then I've got another week's kind of standalone one that I've kind of half written. I'll maybe see that. If not, I'll concentrate on another anthology style.
And you do other stuff? Is there any other stuff you're up to? Or
Not really. So DUI 3, I've got a wee 2-pager in there
nice
coming up,
work? Yeah.
which I'm looking forward to seeing.
It's almost there, I think. From what Eamon's been telling me, it's almost finished, I think.
Yeah, a brief glimpse of the mind. Myself and Brian Rankin. Brian does the art on that. It's
Oh,
looking
Dan lettered it, didn't he? Danny
Oh
Butcher.
yeah, Dan. Sorry,
Yeah.
Dan Butcher did letter. That's right. Yeah, which is really cool. I didn't know who was going to letter it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eamon sent it through last week, middle of last week. Looks great. So
Yeah, Brian's a good guy as well, you know.
Yeah,
Last time I met him was when I met you, actually, up in the Glasgow Comic Con. Yeah, I've known
yeah.
Brian for years. Yeah, he's a lovely bloke. Yeah.
And he seems a good dude. I've only met him a few times. I think both of us are going to Frankie Boyle and Grant Morris.
Oh, of course you are. Yeah. When's that?
That is in October, the first week. I've got a funny feeling it could be the 9th, 8th or 9th. It's a Monday.
Oh, that sounds good, man.
Yeah, and Owen Morse. I'm really looking forward to that. That'll be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Because Frankie Boyle did a comic in Clint.
Right.
You know, Mark Miller had that sort of monthly comic out, UK
Right.
newsstand thing. God, 20 years ago, I suppose. I can't remember the name. Was it? Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. The book that Frankie Boyle did. But he wrote a comic in it. It was all a bit bizarre. Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Well, I thought it was an interesting pairing, to be fair. So I've been researching, and it sounds like So I think Frankie Boyle has just had a book out or whatever, and he speaks
Right.
about Mark Miller and Bertrand Morrison, and I think Frank Whiteley as well. So he seems to know
Okay.
them all.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that would explain that.
yeah, yeah. Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Good, nice one, man. And thanks for coming on. That's been really good. Did you want to just give us all your links and what you got coming up and where people can buy your stuff and if you got any
Yeah, sure.
conventions coming up, etc.?
Yeah. So I'm hoping to be at Back Issue Bonanza in
That's in
October.
Glasgow, yeah.
That's in Glasgow, yes. I think that's the 28th of October. I'm hoping to get the day off. I'll need to double check, but fingers crossed. I'm going to be at Thought Bubble whenever that is. That is all I've got booked for the rest of the year. You can find me in all those social media places, Glass City Comics, Facebook and Instagram,
Okay.
Comics Glass City for, is it Twitter? Is it X? What is it? I don't
I
know.
don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah,
I've
yeah.
also got a Blue Sky
Oh, look at you.
page. Oh yes, I'm all over that. I think it's Glass City Comics. I don't really know. But ideally, if you go my Substack, that is where I like to be at the moment. My
Oh, yeah, I enjoy
Substack.
your Substack, and thanks for the very kind reviews, man. Yeah, it's a good read, your Substack. Yeah,
No worries. I mean, I try to do it as often as I can. It's quite
yeah,
difficult with two young
yeah,
kids
I
and
feel you.
work as well.
Yeah,
But you can find me at David Cranna at substack.com, and you can buy my stuff or check out my stuff at glasscitycomics.pigcartoon.com.
good stuff, man. Thanks for that. Last time I saw you, actually, you were sort of, we'd all had a few pints, and you were sort of standing at a bus stop, and I was a bit worried for you because you had a big wheelie thing full of comics.
Well, I actually went to meet Dave Alexander after that. So I had a lot more pints after I left you, and then Dave Alexander's a good dude.
Yeah, I've heard he's a good dude. Yeah, yeah.
He's a nice guy. He's actually, I was with him on Thursday past there. I went to the Banksy exhibition and I went to meet them after at Jim Shoot as
Oh,
well.
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
Dave was showing his most recent issue of Viz. And he's
Oh,
got
nice.
a couple of pages in there.
Oh, brill. Oh, good work. Yeah.
238 or 338 or something like that, I can't remember.
Oh,
I
yeah,
tried to
I'm a
get it online.
subscriber. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah, we'll check it out. It'll be the most recent one.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I tried to get it. I tried to get this. They don't sell single issues. So I went on their website to try and get a copy, and they don't sell single issues. So I
Oh,
couldn't get it, unfortunately.
okay. Well, if I find one in the local services, I'll grab you one. Yeah,
Oh, that'd
I
be
usually
good,
see
man.
them in the motorway services when I'm out, you know.
Right,
Yeah.
fair dues. I mean, I don't see anything up here. They're not. I think WH Smith. There's no WH Smith anywhere near me. There must be one in Glasgow. To be fair, I'm actually in Glasgow tomorrow, so I might have a wee look at
You
it.
have a nose. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool. And thanks for that, man. And always welcome. The door's always open to you if you fancy coming back and chatting about something else, because that was a lovely experience reading Scalped, I've got to tell you. Really good.
No worries, man. That'd be cool. It was great. Thanks very much for having me on. Much appreciated.
Absolute pleasure, man. Speak to you soon.
All
Cheers,
right,
mate.
good. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Cheers. Bye bye.